Hey guys, it's Liv here, bringing you guys our, this is our first official episode past the pilot for Draft League Viability Drill Down. I am, of course, your host, Liv, aka OliviaSama, and if you guys do enjoy, leave a like down below. I'm going to try and set a goal for the first official episode of the reskin of Draft League Viability Drill Down to, we're going to set it to 15 likes. Or actually, I'm going to set it, 20 likes. We're going to set it to 20 likes. So let's see if we can hit that. Of course, comment down below thoughts on Pokemon. I will say that I have the next 3 planned out. I have the next 3 planned out because they're Pokemon that are extremely pivotal to the format, being Dragapult, G-Darm, and then I have a third one that I'm going to save for a surprise. But I did want to cover these 3 Pokemon specifically. And then after that, I'll be starting to filter in the viewer requests, of course. We're going to try for bi-weekly, might do weekly. We'll see what happens. It just depends. I do want to, of course, real quick, before we get into the actual video, though, I want to give a massive shout out to Just Kurt, aka Just Kurt 17, aka Kirby. Shout out to Kurt. He helped a lot with the tour stats specifically. We will go a lot more in depth than we did in the Coco one if you saw the pilot. So yeah, of course, as I mentioned, just click subscribe if you want to see more of this. And with that said, let's get right into it. So right off the bat, let's get into what makes Dragapult Dragapult. Dragapult is considered one of the best Pokemon in the draft format, and for good reason. This is a Pokemon that has a blistering high speed set of 142, which if you look at draft Pokemon, it's a very, very pivotal speed tier to have a Pokemon above the 130 mark. If your team has one of those, it's a very rare speed tier to get on a good Pokemon. If you think of a lot of the faster Pokemon, or a lot of the great Pokemon in draft format, stuff like Dragapult, Koko, Zeraora, all of those are really, really strong Pokemon in the format, at least in the upper echelon of picks, and they're all really fast because you're able to invest really carefully with those Pokemon, being able to do stuff like, let's say, for example, invest in bulk or offense really easily while still outpacing a lot of your opponent's roster. So this sort of speed tier on a Pokemon that has as good offense as Dragapult being 120, 100 is phenomenal. And typing as well, being Dragon Ghost offensively hits a lot. This is a type that's able to break through types such as Psychic types, other Dragon types, other Ghost types as well. And it hits a lot of Pokemon neutrally. It does have two types that are completely immune to it, to be fair, being Fairy and Normal, which isn't the best, but it's pretty easy to find a type, like types that can get past those. A good Steel type can wall out both of those, for example, and crush Fairies. On top of as well, a good Fighting type can at least pressure Normals really well. And a lot of Fighting types as well have good coverage for Fairies, so it's not that hard to get past a lot of checks. There are types that you usually would draft anyway in a format. Most teams have a Fighting type, and pretty much every team has a Steel type. So it's not exactly that hard to get types to Dragapult's counters. Not only this, but it has a respectable 88, 75, 75 stat spread, which is really good when you think of the fact that this is an offensive Pokemon we're talking about. So Dragapult already has that going for it. In terms of abilities, this Pokemon has a lot to work with as well. Clear Body being able to help against offensive teams, especially with teams that are running webs as their speed control. This helps a lot with making sure that Dragapult isn't going to get a speed drop to maybe help put your Dragapult in range of, let's say, a Band-Aid Pokemon, or maybe like a Specs Breaker, or some other Pokemon that's just meant to outpace with webs up. Infiltrator helps get around a lot of sub-setup spreads. To name a really good sub-setup Pokemon, of course, is Zygarde. That's a great example of Pokemon that this would want to run Infiltrator against, and maybe just like a Draco versus. There are a ton of other examples though, of course, like Subcon Line Suicune. You could just run Bandit Infiltrator, go for Dragon Darts, probably 2 KO it. Or Phantom Force as well will do a ton of damage to that Pokemon as well. So there are definitely a lot of sub-Pokemon. Like, I could probably go through a lot more, but I don't want to necessarily take the whole time listing off every Pokemon that can run a sub, because it's a widespread move. But this can run sub in any particular bad matchup against a sub sweeper, and just get past it. Curse Body as well is a pretty cool ability, because with Curse Body, you're able to actually make sure that you can potentially sack this and have a chance to make sure that whatever move your opponent clicked to kill this Pokemon is completely gone for 3 to 4 turns. I forget the exact number. I'm pretty sure it's somewhere between 3 to 4. I could be wrong in that. But regardless of Curse Body is still pretty cool if you want to bank on hacks. And let's say Infiltrator or Clear Body aren't going to matter in a matchup. Could be nice. This Pokemon has a lot of going for it as well, status-wise. Having options like T-Wave and Will-O-Wisp both at its disposal, as well as options that I wasn't able to list, such as Disable, really help with Dragapult being a really annoying Pokemon, to say the least. And hell, if you want to really run Curse, I guess you can. It wouldn't be the setup Curse, though. It would be the one that's 50% of your own HP and then dropping by 24 versus Pokemon in. It could force switches. To be fair, it's not the greatest move, just more so showing other utility options it has. As well as Dragapult also is a really fast screen setter. Now, I mentioned that fast Pokemon are really good in format, but imagine fast Pokemon with screens. This is one of the things that makes Koko such a threatening offensive Pokemon, because Koko is able to run a really fast attacks, like a fast set that could be offensive, But you also could worry about it setting up screens for another Pokemon to break, which is even scarier when you have to think about prepping for not only Dragapult, but also for another breaker that could be just behind screens Dragapult sets and then pivots out with U-turn on. Could be very, very terrifying for a team. Because if you prep for the wrong sweeper, let's say, and maybe you don't prep for like the 15, 16 point mon as much as Dragapult, because who would? Unless it's a really bad matchup for it. Then you can set up screens with Pult and then bring in that 15, 16 points breaker. And hey, that mon just happens to kind of win against the 6 your opponent brought. Well, Dragapult now has done its job in that game, but it's just not breaking that game. So Dragapult definitely has a lot utility-wise, as well as really good coverage. For example, Dragapult has options like Scald, Thunder, Fire Blast, which help get around a lot of steals, pretty much any steal you could think of. For example, you could run Scald or Hydro Pump for Heatran. You have Fire Blast for the average steal, especially stuff like Ferrothorn, for example, or Scizor, or stuff like that. And then you have Thunder for stuff like Celesteela that will hit as hard, but it could also help with stuff like Corviknight, for example. However, Fire Blast will probably be the ideal option in a lot of matchups. Definitely, though, has good coverage as well as good stabs. As I said, Phantom Force, Shadow Ball, Draco Meteor, Dragon Claw, Dragon Darts, all are really good options. Even Hex as well to take advantage of T-Spikes, which T-Spikes are another thing this Pokemon really thrives off of having. Though, it can also just, as I mentioned previously, set status of its own, so it does have a lot going for it. Stealing even hit fairies is pretty cool. So now that we've also gotten through all of that, let's get into some other things that make Dragapult really good. As you mentioned, Dragon Ball has a really good speed and attack stab. What if I told you this thing can be even more terrifying physically, offensively? With the option of Dragon Dance, this Pokemon actually has a lot going for it, being able to be a physical sweeper that could just run stabs and plow through most teams. That stealing that I mentioned previously, that wouldn't necessarily 2 KO Fairy type before at +1 with, let's say, a Life Orb or even like a Steel Plate or a Metal Coat, for example, if you're on Wi-Fi, will most likely 2 KO pretty much any Fairy you're facing. With Dragapult's attack stat, it can most likely run Adamant in any game as well on top of that, so that Dragon Dance set becomes that much more terrifying. So Dragapult just on paper has a lot going for it. That's what makes Dragapult Dragapult. Now let's get into some of its Lee examples. So if we go into some Lee play from Dragapult, Dragapult has some top performances all in the 9-1 range. I couldn't even fit all of its 9-1s in here just because there was that many of them. But 9-1 for WBE Season 6 with +37, coached by Envy. 9-1 +30 by Shuckle King in APA Academy Season 3. 9-1 +24 by Bepsis in GDL Season 2. And then we also have a 9-1 +27 for Ultra Player, of course, in NCP Stratus. So we have a lot going for Dragapult, of course. So I'm not actually sure why NCP ranked lower, if I'm being honest, but it did nonetheless. Regardless, though, those are just the 9-1 seasons. Dragapult has a ton of... Oh, you know what? It was, I must have been sorting by... No, I can't even tell you what. Regardless, though, in general, this Pokemon definitely has a really terrifying just performance record. If you pair this as well with just thinking of how many playoff pushes this Pokemon has had, I tallied through a huge list of leagues, and I'll link a doc down below with all the leagues I did tally and the full metrics, because obviously it's way too much to show in this video. But I went through 33 different draft leagues, and out of those 33 draft leagues, obviously it's going to vary in performance. For example, a lot of these were LD divisions or APA divisions, which scale greatly in skill rank. But out of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 this gen alone were all playoff performances by Dragapult, which is pretty incredible. It's just about half. So that's really good for Dragapult, of course. Obviously, some of its weaker finishes were UBL Season 5, where Dragapult was coached by Root and had a 2-6 -6 finish. 2-10 for Odyssey Season 1, -33. I believe this was Nally, if I'm not mistaken. I forgot who had it. And then It's Whatever coached in LD Minor Season 4, the 1-9 -24 per Volt. But overall, for these really astronomically low finishes, anything below 3 and 7 or lower, there was only 6 of them. Whereas for 7 and 3 or above, there was, let's see, so there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 finishes. So that should just go to show the range, in my opinion, for how good Dragapult is, just in general. Definitely on the upper echelon of win percentages, of course. Most of these teams at bare minimum broke even. Over half did, actually. Just not all of those, of course, made playoffs. Like, a lot of 5-5 teams didn't, but those broke even. There was a 4-3 team, of course, that didn't, even though it got only 4 wins, just didn't break even. So just stuff like that, of course, scaled a bit differently. But more than half of Dragapult's performances at least broke even, if not better. If we get into accolades for Dragapult, Dragapult has won 3 championships this generation just off of leagues of tiered alone. 4 finals appearances on top of that, 2 more semifinals appearances, 4 quarterfinals appearances, and 2 others. These others being, one was a entry level qualifier loss, which was in APA Classic season, I want to say it was APA Classic season 15. It lost in the top 12 to the entry to top 8 bracket, aka the qualifier round. And then APA Indigo season 5, the player ended up forfeiting and didn't have a replacement because it was like right before playoffs. So they were of course 7-3 finish though, and I believe they only had like 1 game left. So it was like 7-2 before they dropped, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I just know that they had at least 7 wins, and I know that they forfeit before playoffs. I'm not sure how many of the losses played into that though. But that still, regardless, just goes to show, again, how good this Pokemon is. The person forfeit and didn't even miss playoffs. They were like 4th, 5th seed. So this Pokemon in general has a really high playoff record. In terms of Dragapult's average stats, Dragapult actually averages pretty low though. 10 kills, 6 deaths. Not exactly the greatest from a Pokemon you think would average, like for such an offensive Pokemon, you think that Dragapult would average higher. In fact, its best showing was 21 kills, 2 deaths in APA Odyssey Season 2, which was to 9 games that it came to. However, for games that it, let's say, got 16 or higher, 16 I think is a pretty good kill count for an offensive Pokemon. That's a pretty high record in my opinion. So for games that got 16 or higher, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games out of, well, 5 leagues out of 33. So that's not exactly that high. So for an offensive Pokemon, you think this would be contributing a bit more to the offensive kills. Now, obviously, as I mentioned, Dragapult could very well play a variety of roles. It could be the statuser, it could be the screen setter. It could do a lot. So it doesn't necessarily need to be the sweeper every game, but you would still think for an offensive Pokemon, it would be playing a lot more into kill counts. There's a lot of these leagues, actually, it didn't even make top 10 kills, even in the ones it did positive in. So just goes to show. Dragapult breaks even at win percentage at just about 51%. So not exactly the highest. I don't know why it says 0.51%. It's meant to be 51%, but just ignore that. And it's brought to about 91% of games. So that's pretty high bring percentage, of course, shows that this is a very splashable Pokemon every week. It's very low risk, high reward. There were some leagues, of course, where people didn't bring it to every game. I think that the lowest bring percentage Dragapult had of any league was, it was brought to about 63% of games, well, 64% of games being brought to 7 games out of 12 in APA Evolution Season 2. And that was the lowest that it had. Everything else was 80% above. It was that one outlier, though, that really brings this number down. It would probably be, if this, let's say, had, I'll play with a number real quick, but let's say this had 9, even just a 75% bring record, that brings the total percentage count up. Actually, it doesn't bring it up that much, to be honest. I guess it's just the average. So it doesn't really change it. It brings up like 1%. It would have brought it to 92%, but that's still a decent jump out of 33. You would think that one league count couldn't bring up a whole bring percentage that much, but it does. So definitely though, that one outlier kind of weighs down the results a bit, but otherwise though, this is brought to like in the average of 9 games every season, or at least a 2/3, if not higher. So with that said though, let's get into the tour statistics for Dragapult. So the tour side of things, we tiered from 5 different tournaments, though these weren't necessarily 5 different teams. So we tiered from DPL Season 3, we tiered from TMT Season 7, PGP Season 2, Clash of Kings Season 2, and TDT Season 4, not TMT, because those were 2 different tours. So in terms of kill counts, Dragapult averaged about 43.8 kills, so about 44 kills, 23.8 deaths. The 0.8 is really showing here. 114 wins and 82 losses, so not exactly the greatest win percentage. You would think that for such a dominant mon, and to its credit, to be fair, a lot of these were mirror matchups. Like DPL, most teams had it, and TDT, every team had it. TMT and Conk were the only 2 teams that were not guaranteed possible for every team, and PGP, every team had it as well. So what I did as well was I scaled to a tour average. So what I did was I scaled this on a 7-game basis. So for PGP, this went up a bit in kills, and for DPL and for TDT and Conk, TDT and DPL, it was a 7-game average. So that was just the 7-game average among the leagues. For averaging for one team. For TMT, however, we scaled it up because there was only 2 teams that had it, and there was 10 games total. So actually, we scaled it down. And for PGP, we scaled it up a bit after averaging all 16 because there was only 6 weeks for that. So this average is about 5 kills in 7 games. Well, 5.84, so that's actually about 6 kills and then 3 deaths. So it's not that bad when you think of that. A lot of these are mirror matchups, of course, as well. Averages at that point about 121 wins and 88 losses. So as I mentioned, that's because it's slightly higher because of leagues like PGP, for example. And averages about 58% win percent either way, but it averages about 6% more brought when you scale it to an average, which I thought was pretty cool. I kept the average stats in as well, by the way. I want to make that clear. I kept the average stats in because I felt like this was a cool metric to go by to give the tours some consistency, because tours as a whole are very chaotic. 4 of these are team tours. With TMT being a very different type of team tour, it's a team ghosting tour, and it's also the fact that it's like a bracket still. Obviously, with PGP, it was different week count. DPL was pretty much every team. TDT was like every team. PGP was every team, but it was also league based. So as well, you could bench certain players a lot more often, which does scale down the league percentage for bringing. So again, that's why I wanted some consistency. I will mention some quick stats that I didn't end up including, but in terms of the Clash of Kings kill counts, well, I should go for TDT first because it's a lot quicker. Both teams ended up being 2 and 3, with Flex Modes being -2 and Damn Weaves being -6. So not exactly great either way. I couldn't get kill counts for either of those, however. At least not for, I didn't mark the kill counts. But, so I just forgot to do that. But for Clash of Kings, however, so, Boomer Bursters ended up 15-34 for their whole season with 0-7 full record. We next have High Jump Sean Sisters with 23-26 with a 4-3 series record. Cleveland Brown Deckers with a 4-3 record with 24-25, and Meatball Substitutes with 3-4 with 22-27. So definitely not exactly the best showings in Clash either for a Pokemon. None of the really dominant teams got Dragapult, and even Boomer Bursters ended up just completely 0-7 that season. So it doesn't necessarily seem like it's pulling the tour stats that everyone thinks it's monstrously pulling either. I think it's more so just that every team has it, and that if anything, I think it's more showing in draft pools. Now, I will say as well that I couldn't pull anything for DPL Season 4 because 1, it's ongoing right now, and 2, they banned Dragapult, so I wasn't able to actually pull that. So maybe, who knows, maybe it is a healthier format, but I personally think that a couple of things that really played into it was, 1, a lot of these tours, not all of them, but a lot of these, for example, DPL, and I think TDT as well, TMT as well. I can't speak for the rest, I wasn't in them, but at the very least, I can actually say for DPL though, it was a Wi-Fi format for its Gen 8, so that does obviously play into it. So that could play into Dragapult being more or less broken, but personally, I don't think the showing is so anything too outrageous. I think it's more so just that people think that Dragapult's really scary because every team can get it. But I think it shows, again, more so on the fact that it's not draft pools, less so on the fact that Dragapult is a Pokemon. So I think if tours just did more of a draft pool format, that would solve a lot of the issues around Dragapult seeming like it's so overwhelming or so repetitive. But with that said, though, let's get into some matchup examples. The first matchup example we're going to show being from Envy's WBE Season 6 record. I pulled 1 Wi-Fi league, 1 NatNext league, and I pulled 1 league that was also Wi-Fi but in a Gigantamax format. I pulled the best ones from each, so I think that should hopefully play into our records. But WBE Season 6 for Envy went 9-1 plus 37 and had a semi-finals run. His Dragapult stats specifically were 18-2 plus 16 with a 100% bring rate at 10 games out of 10. And then, well, actually, it was 8 games out of 10. It shows 10 because of playoffs including. Actually, no, never mind. It was just 10 week season. My bad. And then win rate is 90%, of course. So Envy's full draft was Dragapult, Togekiss, Mamoswine, Obstagoon, Bronzong, Virizion, Lantern, Centiskorch, Runerigus, Shuckle, and Skuntank. So right off the bat, what I will mention really quick is bringing in some of the common draft partners, because I think this sort of plays into Envy's draft a bit. So some common draft partners that I noticed throughout the leagues were, shoutouts to Draft League NL, this counted a lot of draft partners that, while I didn't necessarily count all these leagues together because I just didn't have all their stats available and there was over 100. And I also just, a lot of Draft League NL stats are including playoffs, so I had to manually subtract playoffs from these stats. So I didn't use Draft League NL for the full kill counts and all that, but I did use it for partners at least. And the top 3 partners for it, which were shown to be Mandibuzz, Rotom Heat, and Togekiss, with the best Isle of Armor partner being Scizor and the best Crown Tundra partner being Nidoking. So keep that in mind when you see these teams. For example, Togekiss is on this team as well, and is also on one of our other teams. So I think that was pretty cool to see. Of course, just the fact that a couple of our teams actually did use one of these stats, which I thought was pretty cool to see. Not only it do well as a partner, but it also was a common partner. So Togekiss, of course, being one of the most common Dragapult partners on this team. We also see Obstagoon, which is another high-scoring Dragapult partner, same as Mamoswine. We see options like Bronzong, which help round out the team, of course. And then Skuntank is a second Dark, helps a lot with Ghost types and Psychic types, just in case. For example, especially with Ghost types in general being good against Obstagoon. Well, not Obstagoon, Dragapult and Bronzong. So I thought this was definitely a really cool stat track, of course. In terms of the game that we're going to be featuring from MV, I'm going to pause real quick as I pull that up. Okay, so we're here now with the actual MV match. Well, I'm not going to go through the entire match because it's a decently long game. I did skim through it and I looked through for some important turns. I will real quick go into the matchup. So this is a matchup versus Bane Attacks, coach of the Star Chews. So MV ended up winning this game as a 6-0 win right off the back of a banned Dragapult, which MV's Dragapult spread, he shows in the video, but I haven't pulled up here anyway. It is Dragon Darts, Phantom Force, U-Turn, Sucker Punch, or Choice Band, 252 attack, Adamant, 156 speed, 12 speed def, 12 HP, and 76 def. So this is a pretty offensive Dragapult, of course. It's meant to break through Feint's team. His fairy type is Hatterene here, so it can even pressure that pretty well. And seeing as the only resist to Ghost as well is Snowax and Pangoro, between the two attacks, it could definitely play a really nice role in this match. MV as well has really good options on Hatterene, such as Obstacle, of course, Bronzong, etc., with his AV Zong especially being a really nice switch-in. So MV seems really dedicated to just checking Hat as well as possible, and then just killing it off, well, killing the rest of the team off with Bandit Pull. So what I will do really quick is I will go to where Pull actually starts doing stuff, because it's a decently long game. So we're going to go right here. I'm going to also set it to 2 times, because sadly I can't go through and just go for... So we're going to go for 2 times speed, and I'm going to mute it. But basically at this point in the game, MV killed off Hatterene with Togekiss. So Hatterene, of course, dropped. And as you can see here, MV has locked himself into banned Dragon Darts because of that. So Dragapult was clearly able to go through and just kind of tear this team. As I mentioned, it is a pretty long game just because Feint takes a while. But we'll real quick go to when MV actually kills the Dragapult, well, the Kyurem. So he withdraws here actually and goes into Poncho the Snorlax. And we can see versus Snorlax, this Dragapult do a meaty around like 50% after the second hit. So clearly at this point in the game, Feint's significantly lower on timer anyway, so you can't even try and like stall out Dragon Darts, because MV will clearly just kill off his entire team before he does it anyway. And also again, MV can also just time him out. So no matter what, at this point in the game, MV kill off the Lax. MV then has to kill off this Lycanroc, which Lycanroc could definitely go for Celerock here, sure. But as you're going to see in a moment, even if Feint did click that, it wouldn't have been enough. MV has a decently healthy Dragapult and is also invested pretty Fizz Def, but Feint doesn't even try. He doesn't even try and click Sucker Punch here. He just sacks. So, of course, Lycanroc goes down there. Then at this point, Feint has Kyurem left. He has a couple other mons left. He has Kofag left and Pangoro, I believe, is the team. So Pangoro obviously is going to drop this point. It's around 2/3. And as you can see, I mean, Dragon Darts goes off here, and Pangoro takes a metric fuck ton. So Dragapult clearly showing that it can offensively break, and that a physical set is viable. Even with the ban, it is definitely a viable set, depending on the matchup. As we can see here, of course, Kyurem is going to come in, and it's going to take a decent amount of Dragon Darts as well, because, of course, it's not like it has a Hibanberry this matchup, because Feint certainly under-prepped this Pokemon, in my opinion. But I think it still goes to show that Dragapult did have a really good matchup here, nonetheless. As we can see, it was able to sweep pretty easily, and getting a 6-0, even if it is against a person who doesn't necessarily prep the best, is still a pretty hard feat to do. So I think the fact that MV was able to position himself in a way to do this should go to show that Dragapult is definitely a nuisance in the format, to say the least. So we're going to pause here. I mean, you can see that the game clearly is over, and we're going to go to the next matchup. Well, the next team, which is Josh, aka coach of the West Virginia Miniors, Ultra player. So Josh's team was a Natdex team. And his draft is Dragapult, Clefable, Mega Mawile, Gren, Uxie, Moltres, Passimian, Stunfisk, Roselia, Dottler, and Rotom-Mow. So Josh had a lot going for his draft, actually, in my opinion. So one of the first things that Dragapult really benefits from is having the Mega Mawile pairing. In my opinion, the Mega Mawile pairing in this Pokemon is really, really strong. Having a really strong Fairy and a Steel, and as well as Josh also put a Clefable on this team, which is a very scary Pokemon as a whole. So Josh really knew what he was doing here. He got Gren as well for a nice speedy Pokemon that's able to set spikes as well for him, as well as Roserade that's able to defensively set spikes for him. He has Moltres as well, which is pretty cool. It's a nice fairy just in case Mawile doesn't want to do the switching, and it's able to stall out other fairies too. He has Uxie, of course, which is a really nice just psychic type. Able to sponge just hits in general for pull if it doesn't want to. Even without the weakness jag necessarily, it doesn't necessarily like symbiotically pair, but it does still just a nice sponge. It's a cool rocker, nice momentum for the team. So Josh did a lot of things right with this draft, in my opinion. He has a lot of momentum, as you can see with stuff like BP Maw, U-Turn and Gren. He has U-Turn Uxie, U-Turn Moltres, U-Turn Passimian. He has Rotom-Mow, of course, so Teleport Clef too. So it has a lot going for it in terms of momentum. Josh also defensively pairs this really well. If we look at other common counterparts, of course, Josh's Clefable, which ranked 23rd in singles for Mawile pairs, of course. Other pairings, he didn't really get anything that was too common on this team. So he did kind of like flesh out. Rotom got 6, but that was about it in terms of common pairings. Rotom's just in general seemed to pair really well with this Pokemon. Josh's stats with this were 9-1 plus 27, made finals, lost to Diet Titan finals. 13-5 plus 8 for the kill record, with games played being 8. So Josh was on the lower end of games played percentage, of course, bringing it to only 80% of games, but still was able to get a 90% win rate, which is pretty cool, because that means that he guaranteed won one game at least without bringing Dragapult to it. So, of course, being a really solid player this match, we're going to next get into Josh's replay of choice. So this is a very short replay, so I'm just going to show the whole thing. Josh is set with a Colbur Berry set with Will-O-Wisp, Dragon Dance, Dragon Darts, and Phantom Force. 250 to attack Adamant, 176 HP, and 80 speed. As you can see, he's playing Odds Are. I had another replay I want to show. However, Josh may have gotten a win for it and gotten 5 kills on Pull, but he should have lost the game to what happened. Now, while I will say that the game was ruled a loss for Jorge because of an illegal loss, nonetheless, it doesn't show Dragapult finishing off the game, so I didn't want to show it. Also, the replay was hidden, and I didn't feel like going through YouTube because I wanted to do as many showdown replays as possible in available instances. So we're going with this one instead. It is still a very good showing for Dragapult, to be fair. I'm going to show just the full thing. It's a very quick game. As you can see, it's 12 turns. So Dragapult clearly dominated this matchup. Turn 1, I'm going to go fast, but turn 1, Josh just decides to set up with Maw. He's able to, obviously, early game break through this really, really easily. Arachnid going down is nice because, well, obviously Josh had cleared body. It's still nice just to clear a Pokemon in general. Celesteela going down was huge, though. It allows Dragapult, of course, an easier time. High Jump Kiss doesn't really matter too much because, of course, with Colbur Berry, it's not like that Mianchat was really breaking Pull easily anyway. It could have easily gotten the turns on it. Maw able to now break Tang as well, able to chew the Earthquake. Tang being broken basically kind of just gives Josh the win here. Because even Zacking Maw, of course, is Mega Gardevoir. We're able to see here that Josh just clicks Phantom Force. Phantom Force is a very, very free click at this point. There's no resist in the team. There was no resist to begin with, but especially now, Josh doesn't even get set up a Dragon Dance because he just kind of won the game. He's choosing to set up a Dragon Dance at this point just in case, I guess, of Guts Luxray or in case of Agility. Very smart play, of course, because he guaranteed outpaced. And not only that, but in case of, let's say, an Ice Fang, for example, went off, as you can see, Colbur Crunch actually didn't do a lot. If this was a Guts Luxray, it might have been a bit different, but it wasn't. Though, to be fair, I guess Guts would have died at this point, so it didn't really matter. Regardless, though, it does definitely help with just making sure he avoided any sort of bullshit, any sort of freeze, flinch, etc. So Josh was in the right to make that Dragon Dance play. No matter what, he was safe there. And then, of course, Gardevoir comes in, and it's just going to get Phantom Force this turn, and then, as we see next turn, it just kind of wins. So yeah, Dragapult definitely proving its offensive here. In tandem with Mega Maw, as I said, the two symbiotically pair really well. Maw being able to shatter any sort of walls that would wall Dragapult, and then Dragapult, of course, able to sweep through a lot of teams. So, in my opinion, this definitely goes to show why Dragapult is still a threat in the National Dex format. Obviously, as I mentioned, it's not like Josh played some astronomically good player, but this was still a good showcase, I think, of Dragapult and Maw together, so I wanted to show it nonetheless. The final team we're going to go into is coached by none other than Shuckle King, coach of the OK Rillaboomers. His draft this time was Dragapult, Dragapult, Togekiss, Mamoswine, Obstagoon, Zeraora, Gmax Colossal, Steelix, Roserade, Rotom Frost, Gastrodon, and Cramorant. So right off the bat, as I mentioned, Mamoswine was a high-ranked member, 13th ranked. Togekiss was 3rd overall. We have the Obstagoon, which while it doesn't show, it is still a very, very common partner from what I've seen. Oh yeah, actually, Obstagoon is 5th overall, so I clearly didn't see that at all. Looking at other common partners that Shuckle King had, I can't really see anything else on here. However, I do actually... Oh, no, my Gastrodon is at 20th, so it's another high-ranking partner. Rotom says general high-ranked, so Rotom Frostbeak on here for a niche pick. While it didn't necessarily make this list, it's still a common partner-ish, just a Rotom in general. Fills the same sort of role on this team, basically. Other common partners, Steelix ranked 15th overall, so that's another one. Right below Scizor, actually, for Isle of Armor Pokemon. So that was another really cool one. So this definitely has a lot of Pokemon that were, like, very common partners for Dragapult. And I think it shows in Shuckle King's record. He was 9-1 plus 30 with the championship title in this league, even playing Bepsis in the finals. So it just goes to show Shuckle King really worked his ass off to win this league. Well, not necessarily even banking on Dragapult. 10-3 plus 7. Not exactly a great showing when you brought it to all 10 games. To be fair, I will say though, in Shuckle King's playoff runs, he went 9-1 in this Pokemon. I think he only died once. There's like 9-1. So just goes to show, of course, 2 of those wins were 4-0s versus Bepsis who went 1-1. So Dragapult definitely had a phenomenal playoff showing. Just in main season, it really didn't get to show that. Regardless though, Shuckle King had a phenomenal season, that it clearly shows. And one game that I do want to pull up is his game against Just Kurt, coach of the Portage Herdiers. So, of course, in this matchup, as I mentioned, this is a G-Max league. So, Kurt's G-Max is G-Max Paladin, and Shuckle King's is G-Max, it's G-Max Colossal. So Cole didn't come to this game, but Cole did regardless of provide a lot to this team, being able to, of course, get a lot of the higher tier threats that Shuckle did. Already great, and of course, Cole is a very good G-Max bot in my opinion. It was very underpriced in APA as well. So, as we can see here, we're going to get into the replay. We're going to go a bit fast, of course, because this is a longer game. Turn 1, though, Kurt, of course, sacks Chinchino to Dragapult because he doesn't have great switch-ins. If Shuckle King, of course, clicked, let's say, a Steel Wing there and caught the Grimmstyle switch, that would have been very bad. So right off the bat, of course, Kurt having to sack Chinchino turn 1 to Dragapult, not great. Kurt, of course, able to set up screens now. Shuckle King goes for Toxic Spikes. Now, the Toxic Spikes is going to be very important because Shuckle King's spread this match is a Choice Scarf set, being able to outpace anything that Kurt could have brought, especially if he brought, let's say, a Scarf Noivern to try and revenge us off. He has Draco Meteor, U-Turn, Hex, and Shadow Ball, Modest Nature, 244 speed, and then 12 HP. Just able to outpace Kurt's entire team. This was creeping Noivern actually specifically. So, as we see though, Shuckle King's trying to go for a Sleep Powder here, trying to put to sleep the Duraludon, of course, which he's finally able to do. After this point, he goes into Mamoswine here, and then decides to go for just, he just tries to go for an Earthquake. Kurt doesn't really have a switching outside of Noivern, which is never switching in harder Mamo. So, Kurt gets up his Reflect here, perfectly fine, because now his Screen Setter is gone, and his screen turn count is getting pretty low. So, Mamo's able to just break pretty early on in the game, really allowing itself to position for Dragapult to be really good. And not only this, but because of the fact that Shuckle King is an Infiltrator set, even if Shuckle King didn't get the Necrozma there, kill the poison. So I just realized that I paused the recording, so I'm gonna actually go back a couple turns. I don't know where it cut, but I'm gonna go back to the Necrozma. That's where I'm gonna cut the video at. So obviously, while Necrozma could have definitely lived this hit here, it did end up dying to poison. But if T-Spikes, let's say, weren't up, because of Shuckle King being an Infiltrator set, even with this +1 boost, Shuckle King was still guaranteed to pick it off with the Scarf Dragapult anyway, with Shadow Ball. It's because it would have been, even without the Toxic turns, it would have been after this at 20-ish%. I think it would have been at like 24. Because you can see it's at 11 right here, so it would have been like 23, 24. So it just goes to show how having such an astronomically fast Pokemon is really good in this matchup, that even a Scarf set can be terrifying in prep. So Shuckle King really showing the best of Dragapult right here, greatest hits montage, etc. Going for Ice Shard, just trying to get as much chip as possible, which is definitely his best play. Now Zeraora comes in, he's just trying to stall a G-Max turn to the sub, of course, which is definitely his best play, especially with this thing being asleep. So, being able to stall through that G-Max really, really will help late game with Dragapult, of course. Just getting through turns, because it doesn't have to worry about any bullshit from Duraludon living. Because the other two mons will be able to just get Shadow Balled or Hex or something. So, as we see here, Tokus just going for Roost, is just trying to stall turns as much as possible at this point. Gastron comes in now, and of course, Kurt goes for U-turn. And now, Kurt decides to go for Protect, just trying to scout, of course. Definitely in his best interest, also getting more leftovers up. Kurt missing a Hurricane there. Not sure how much that mattered because Shuckle King went for a cover anyway. He's just trying to stall through Hurricanes at this point. Or just stall turns in general. 58%, that's fine. Because at this point, Shuckle King got Toxic off on Noivern, which helps a lot with his late game. Being able to just spam Hex. Really, really good job by Shuckle King, of course, in this prep. I'm going to skip a few turns ahead. Because now at this point, with Roserade being sacked, Dragapult just goes in. Being able to kill these two mons off, of course. And then Duraludon comes in and just gets Hexed. It takes around half. That's fine because Shuckle King ended up getting lucky there, of course, with the predicted switch. And then Dragapult just goes for the kill here. Even with the crit, it still lived, which just goes to show that bulk could have potentially mattered. Of course, while it didn't necessarily guarantee anything, it was only 12 HP. Investing in bulk is always important to making sure that you potentially live even through hacks. So, of course, a very, very good game to Shuckle King. He played that phenomenally, in my opinion. And just goes to show, again, like the best of Dragapult, in my opinion. In the hands of a very good player, I think Dragapult is a phenomenal ceiling. It is a very high peaking mon. However, at the same time, even with this great stat spread and great move pool combination, Dragapult definitely can show to be a not exactly optimal Pokemon. We had a lot of leagues where it didn't exactly perform, even though in the majority of them it definitely did. So yeah, hopefully you guys found something useful out of this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you did, leave a like down below. Subscribe if you're new. I'm gonna link my doc down below with everything I had, because as I said, I could not cover everything. If I did, this would just be a list video, and it's already 30-ish minutes as it is. It would have probably been an hour if I went through in-depth every single thing. So I'm gonna link my full doc down below. As I mentioned, shout outs to Kurt. Kurt was a phenomenal help in this video. It could not have been possible without him, especially in as depth of a knowledge as it was with Kurt. So make sure to check out Kurt down below. With that said, it's been Liv and I'm signing out. Peace out, guys.